Question period Canada in the House of Commons is heating up, gang. Check this out.
For some interest rate relief today as a mortgage holder, as someone with a small business loan or a line of credit, you got some bad news that the Prime Minister is not worth the cost. Rates are staying high long because, as the Governor of the Bank of Canada said, if government spending grows, then interest rates will have to stay high to combat the resulting inflation. Why won't the Prime Minister accept my common sense plan to fix the budget with a dollar-for-dollar law to bring down rates?
Speaker, it's possible to be prudent fiscally and have strong social programs as well. That's exactly what our government does. With the AAA credit rating, with the lowest debt to GDP ratio in the G7, and with historically low unemployment. At the same time, we have a national school food program on the table of $1 billion, Mr. Speaker, supports for childcare and early learning, as well as for renters and homeowners. That's what we do on this side of the House. Every day is a great day to fight for Canadians.
It's not a great day when you're living in a tent city, or when you've had your mortgage double, or when you are with the families that 1 in 4 children who can't get enough food, and they put forward a food program that doesn't have any food. Instead, what they've done is doubled the national debt and driven up interest rates. Today we learned that the Bank of Canada is unable to bring rates down because the Prime Minister continues to make massive multi-billion-dollar inflationary spending. Why won't he follow my common sense plan to bring down the deficit and the rates?
Wages are growing faster than inflation. Under the Conservatives, poverty was at 14.5%. When we replaced the Conservatives, we brought it down to 7.4%. Mr. Speaker, we will continue to invest in Canadians with the supports for affordable housing, for renters, for early learning and childcare, and because of our work, we will make life fairer for Canadians, unlike the Conservative leader who is here for himself. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, we're finding out today from the Bank of Canada that the Prime Minister is not worth the cost. In September, the bank governor said that if government spending were to grow, then interest rates would have to stay high. That was echoed by the former bank governor and incoming Liberal leader, Mark Carney, who indicated that he does not expect rates to fall quickly, and that is partly because of a lack of fiscal discipline. So if he won't listen to me, why won't he listen to his successor and understand that he's not worth the cost of high interest rates?
The Honourable Minister for Innovation.
Mr. Speaker, I hope the Conservative will listen this time because Canadians are watching at home. Mr. Speaker, we will take no lessons from the Conservative. On this side of the House, we have a plan to build more houses. We have a plan to build more prosperity in this country. We have a plan to create more jobs, Mr. Speaker. On the other side, they have slogan, Mr. Speaker. Canadians are smart. They understand that slogans don't build homes. They understand that slogans don't create jobs. They understand that slogans don't create prosperity. Mr. Speaker, every day is a good day to fight for Canadians. That's what we're going to do.
Yesterday, the Assembly of First Nations made it clear that this government is letting down Indigenous people. Right now, the Indigenous funding gap in infrastructure has risen to an astronomical $350 billion. That's not just a number on paper. That means Indigenous people are living in moldy homes. That means Indigenous people don't have access to clean drinking water. Why did this Liberal government turn their back on Indigenous people?
Speaker, for decades and decades, Canada has underinvested in Indigenous communities, and this government is putting a stop to that. We've increased funding for housing on First Nations by 1,100%, Mr. Speaker, and while we know there is a long way to go, I want to thank the AFN for co-writing this report with us. It's very important to understand the size of the gap so that we can work even more quickly to close it together.
I'm going to ask all members, please, to not take the floor until the person who has the microphone has the opportunity to speak to all members, so we can hear the questions clearly, and we can also hear the answers clearly. The honourable member from Dufferin-Caledon.
The great Liberal lies. The budget will balance itself, and the rebate check is larger than the cost of the carbon tax. Everyone knows that is not actually what's happened. And you know who else has joined the carbon tax revolt? 6 premiers in this country who are calling for a carbon tax summit. Newfoundland and Labrador, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Ontario, Saskatchewan, and Alberta. Will this out-of-touch Prime Minister actually call this conference the Carbon Tax Summit, or is he too busy hiding because he called the premiers liars?
So, colleagues, I'd like to remind all colleagues on all sides of the House that we must be very careful about using the word lies. Although it wasn't directed at an individual, it is really important that we not use language, as you know, that it can be disturbing and can disturb the affairs of the House. The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Look, on this side of the House, we actually believe in facts and we believe in science. The honourable member makes statements that actually have zero basis in fact. 200 economists in this country signed a letter last to 2 weeks ago saying that 8 out of 10 Canadians get more money back. The Parliamentary Budget Officer says that 8 out of 10 Canadians get money back. They can make up all of the things that they want to, but the facts are on our side. It is an issue that addresses affordability for Canadians, particularly those on modest incomes. It is a plan to address climate change. Those reckless, irresponsible Conservatives on the other side of the House should be ashamed.
Liberal government, many Canadians can no longer afford to feed their families. Last year, 2 million Canadians visited food banks in a single month alone. But instead of bringing down the cost of food, the Prime Minister increased the carbon tax on groceries by 23% on April 1st. Clearly, this Prime Minister is not worth the cost. Instead of making things worse, will the Prime Minister finally cut the cost of food by adopting Conservative Bill C-234 to take all carbon taxes off of farmers in next week's budget?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
It's important that we talk in this House about all of the supports that we're providing to farmers and the agricultural community in the context of our fight against climate change, Mr. Speaker. But I would also point out that after having Conservative senators threaten female senators on amendments on this bill, this is a Conservative private member's bill that they can prioritize at any moment and bring to a vote in this House. It's up to them. C-234's fate is decided on the Conservative side of the House, Mr. Speaker.
St. Albert. Edmonton.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday at the public inquiry, it was confirmed that CSIS briefed top Liberal officials that Beijing interfered in the nomination on behalf of the member for Don Valley North. Today, the Globe and Mail is reporting that a top Liberal broke the law by leaking classified information that resulted in the member for Don Valley North being tipped off that he was being monitored by CSIS. So who broke the law? What is the name of that top Liberal?
Thank you. I thank the member for the question. In regard to the fact that, unfortunately, foreign interference is a problem that some foreign state actors have taken to try to undermine our democracy. But, Mr. Speaker, it's not new, and that's precisely why we have taken this matter so seriously. It's precisely why we have initiated a number of steps to strengthen our democracy. And, Mr. Speaker, we've all agreed to the inquiry, and we want to allow that work to continue so Canadians have a full picture of the issues around foreign interference.
That non-answer is completely unacceptable. Enough of the cover-up. Only a handful of Liberal officials were briefed by CSIS. We now know that a top Liberal broke the law, undermined the work of CSIS, and put the partisan interests of the Liberal Party ahead of national security. So, when did the Prime Minister first learn of this criminal leak, and did he refer it to the RCMP?
True. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, all parties in this House agreed to the terms of reference for Justice Hoag's inquiry. Mr. Speaker, it's important for Canadians and all members of this House that foreign interference is not partisan. It's important that we allow Justice Hoag to continue in this work so that Canadians can have a full picture surrounding any attempts of foreign interference in this country. Mr. Speaker, an interim report will be delivered in May, and I look forward to the recommendations on how we can strengthen our democracy.
Would also be very enthusiastic about the bilateral agreements that have been signed across this country. And I want to thank the member for Yukon, not only for his extraordinary work as a member of Parliament, but as a physician and a chief medical officer, the work that he's done to promote public health and better health for Canadians across the country really has to be commended. And I was so proud to be with him in the Yukon to make an announcement that's going to see more doctors, more nurses, reduce backlog, improve access to care, make sure that we allow our seniors to age at home. It's part of a $200 billion plan to take action across the country.
8 years of this NDP Liberal Prime Minister, we know that he's not worth the cost or the corruption, and we've seen that with the $60 million that he spent on his failed Arrive scam. Last year alone, he spent $21 billion on outside consultants, and his favorite hand-picked consultants, GC Strategies, are being hauled before the bar of this House to answer questions under threat of imprisonment for lying to parliamentarians in the inquiries about this Liberal scandal. It's a historic tool for historic levels of corruption. So in the budget next week, will the Prime Minister cut the corruption in his government?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, as we have said time and time again, when it comes to the procurement process, Canadians and all parliamentarians expect the process to be followed, expect laws to be followed, and Mr. Speaker, this is precisely why we have supported the work of the committee. CBSA has already initiated a number of measures to improve the procurement process. Mr. Speaker, we will continue to make those improvements so Canadians have trust in our procurement systems.
The Honourable Member from Leeds Grenville, Thousand Islands and Rideau Lakes.
The procurement system that they're presiding over is so broken that millions of dollars are being paid to firms who add no value and do no work to contracts. Just last year, $21 billion on outside contracts, and this NDP Liberal government isn't worth the cost or the corruption of their $60 million Arrive scam that saw GC Strategies paid $20 million but did no work and added no value. For their failed Arrive scam, Canadians got lies, fraud, and forgery. Will they cut the corruption in their budget next Wednesday?
And ask all members, please, to not take the floor while another member is speaking. That's recognized by the Speaker. In particular, I might ask the member from, I believe it is from Timmins James Bay, to please make sure that his comments are only done when he has the microphone, or when he has the floor. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Public Safety.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's ironic coming from Conservatives that these very same companies that were also awarded contracts under Conservative leadership for millions of dollars, that Conservatives did nothing to fix the procurement process. But, Mr. Speaker, rest assured, Canadians can know that our government takes this exceptionally seriously. It's precisely why we've already implemented changes, something that Conservatives ignored for years. We are not going to do that. We are going to build trust in the procurement system, something Conservatives have failed.
The Honourable Member from Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Mr. Speaker, this House will make history when one of the favourite contractors of this NDP Liberal government is hauled before the bar. The Parliamentary Secretary just said that GC Strategies got contracts from Conservatives. Actually, Speaker, you know when GC Strategies was founded? In 2015. Wow. The company was founded in 2015, and they did extensive business with this Liberal government. They get a sole source for the Arrive scam app. So can the government explain why this company got so much work after being founded in the same year that they took government? And will this government finally cancel their costly criminal corruption?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
The member across knows not to use such language, and he knows that there's no evidence for the kind of language that he's using that supports that. The government, as well as opposition parties, all voted to bring this gentleman before the bar of the House of Commons, expecting answers. Parliamentarians are entitled to answers. We voted to get the answers just like they did, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Pretty straight.
Yeah, gang. So my name's Aaron. Just to explain, we watch Canadian politics here. I'm trying to learn about Canadian politics, and while I learn, I share with the people that watch my channel. That's it. We have a blast. We watch all the broadcasts of the daily question periods, and it's pretty fun. Gets out of hand sometimes, but that's part of the fun. Come join us. Our crew is pretty amazing. I think you'll like our community. Come check it out. Give it a test. If you like that chat stuff, we're kind of on spot. And on top of these Canadian politics and politicians, these guys aren't getting away from us. We've got our eyes on them. I'm Aaron, Question Period Canada. Like, subscribe, share, comment, do all that fun stuff. It's great.
Thank you. I thank the member for the question in regards to the fact that, unfortunately, foreign interference is a problem that some foreign state actors have taken to try to undermine our democracy. But, Mr. Speaker, it's not new, and that's precisely why we have taken this matter so seriously. It's precisely why we have initiated a number of steps to strengthen our democracy. And, Mr. Speaker, we've all agreed to the inquiry, and we want to allow that work to continue so Canadians have a full picture of the issues around foreign interference.
The honourable member from St. Albert, Edmonton.
Mr. Speaker, that non-answer is completely unacceptable. Enough of the cover-up.